Welcome, students. Thanks for joining us on a Sunday. We're excited to have our residency directors and representatives from the colleges here to talk to you about residencies, just about everything you need to know. With that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Stephanie, are we recording? I think we are.
Yes, we are.
Perfect. All right. Well, welcome to our residency info session number two, second in a series. And just wanted to give a quick heads up that this event is for educational purposes, not eligible for continuing ed. And the speakers participating in this are doing so voluntarily and as part of their roles with the colleges. Next slide. So, oh, I think that first bullet was a bit off. So anyway, folks are in listen only mode during this presentation. If you do have questions during the course of the event, please do use the Q&A. The chat is going to be a little bit busy and so on, but the Q&A is preferred so that we can track all the questions that come through. So we are recording this and we will be sharing that recording afterwards. If you do have any issues, please do feel free to email events@anmc.org moving forward. Next slide. So we're going to cover a little bit of an intro, the application process, some tips for a strong application. We'll talk about match, then move into some issues around visas that are unique to the current climate. We will go through how you possibly create a new residency if that's something that is of interest to you, post-match applications, and then have time for Q&A. Next slide. So with us, we have Dr. Jasmine Carino from CCNM. We have Dr. Christina Connor from Bastyr, Dr. Saunders from NUNM, and Dr. Succo from Sonoran. And so I am going to let them take it away.
All right. Yeah, welcome everyone. I'm going to talk just a little bit about where we are in the application process right now. So hopefully everyone has been very busy during phase one with preparing your materials to start applying. We are now about to move into submitting applications, interviews, and the match. So we'll be going through more specific dates in a moment here, but we are nearing the end of that first phase. So next slide. And just as a reminder, if you haven't already, make sure that you download the app for this. It just keeps everything all in one place. And download the app and make sure that you are watching that and logging into it frequently. When you log into this into the portal, make sure that you go to the resources section and then the application checklist. So that will have all of your dates all in one place. And so here we are. So we're at the end of phase one, basically on Thursday. The application period officially opens. And we enter phase two. And Dr. Saunders will be talking a little bit more about all the different components of phase two in a moment. But just keep in mind the major deadlines that you have here, February 25th, the deadline for evaluations and transcripts, March 4th, the deadline to submit the documents order, and March 11th is the final deadline for submitting applications. And then the interview period starts very shortly thereafter. So March 30th is the beginning of the interview period through May 13th. And then deadline to submit the rank list is May 20th, and May 29th is match day.
Thank you, Dr. Connor. So good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, based on where you are today. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to do a brief overview on phase two. If you attended our last info session, we covered all the things that you could do during phase one to kind of get a jump start. And you'll see that some of those are here in this list now in phase two, mostly because if you didn't do it then, the time is now. And there's just a brief window of time before your application is due. So hopefully you've gotten a jump on some of these. The biggest piece that creates excitement around phase two is that the open residency positions become viewable within the portal. And one thing I do want to call out is that if you go to the open residencies tab, like right now, you'll see that we have a lot of other positions that are posted with a different start date. So please be aware that we do have some spring start sites in there, what we call off-cycle sites. And those are supporting our December grads and the folks that are gearing up here to do boards in February. So on the 29th of this month, when all of the positions for what our current grads, our June grads, um, and even those who are taking some summer credits, but those who take the summer boards, those positions will all be posted on January 29th. So that will be the first thing that you'll want to jump on. And there's some good filters in there to look by state and where you're looking to go. You'll want to, if you haven't already, request your faculty evaluations and your school transcript. And please, make sure to check in on your evaluators to make sure they got the request and to make sure they know what the deadline is that's coming up, gently reminding them that it's in the February there and that Dr. Connor just showed you all those dates. So please make sure you have them in your calendar. Having your evaluations in on time helps you with step 5. So let's see, we followed up with our evaluators to make sure it's in there. You're uploading your personal statement, resumes, essays, and NPLEX 1 scores. This is something that hopefully you've been working on since phase 1. Now is your time to tweak each of those essays and your personal statement to the site specific that you're looking to apply to, and share your interest specific in why you are wanting to work there. Highlight different skills and strengths based off of the site that you're applying to. So you may have a standard set of essays and personal statements that you might just tweak for every site. Now that you see if something's coming up with regenerative med, and that's really something you're interested in, you want to highlight your skills and background there, things like that. So on to number 5, create your document order. I am going to spend a little bit more time on that in the next 2 slides. So I'll skip that, but that has a due date as well that Dr. Connor just showed you on the previous slide. And then finally, you'll be submitting your application documents for each site by the deadline, preparing for your interviews, and then preparing your match lists, your rank list. So this is the phase 2 overview. Next slide, please. So what is a confidential document order? It is essentially an order that we build on the back end for you. It has your 3 faculty evaluations and your transcript. And you need to submit the order. You need to tell us what documents you want in there. And then we process it and hide it basically into a document that you can't see because it is confidential. But we put it into your documents library. So it's part of your repository of documents. When you go to apply to each site, just like many things on the web now, you click in, you want to apply to it, and you will select from your document library which documents you want in that package for that site that you're applying to. So if you create your confidential document order by the due date, we will compile that in the background as long as your evaluations and your transcripts are in there, and we'll attach it to your document library so that you are ready to apply to any sites that you're interested in. You only need 1 document order to use for all of your residency applications. Okay, one document order, 3 evaluators, 1 transcript. There's an exception to that rule that I'll get to on a later slide. So how do you do this special confidential document order? Well, you're going to go up in the portal. Your initials should be up in the top right-hand corner. So when I go to mine, it says DS. And if I click DS, it'll drop down. I want to select recommendations and transcript from that menu. And then a screen will pop up with tabs. This is the same place that you went to request your evaluations and transcripts initially. But now you'll notice that there's a tab somewhere near the middle of the screen called Document Order. And if all of your evaluations and transcripts are in, which you can see from this same place, you would click Document Order. And then that would bring you to step 3 here. You write in your name, and then you click Add Recommendations and Transcripts, and you'll see a drop down come in that's accessing your document library that has all of your things for you to select. You'll select your 3 evaluations and your transcript. And then finally, step 4, you hit Submit Order, and then that cues to us to compile your document and put it back in your document library so that you are ready to apply to sites. Next slide, please. So you may submit another document order only under one condition. Okay, so remember, a document order is your 3 evaluators and your 1 transcript. You can have a maximum of 2 only if you meet the following criteria. Okay, number 1, you are applying for a residency position at your home university. And 2, one of your faculty evaluators that wrote an evaluation for you is also sitting on the residency interview committee. Okay, those 2 things need to be true in order for you to submit a second order. And if you do meet this criteria, it's important that you enter the name of your school along with your name. When the previous slide, when I said that you'll put your name in and then select your document. So I have an example here. If I was going to apply to NUNM and one of my evaluators is also on the residency committee, I actually needed to ask somebody else. So maybe I had 4 total evaluators. One of them works at NUNM and is on the residency committee. And I want to apply to both NUNM sites and off sites. I'm going to, for my NUNM application, I'm going to not select the person who's on the committee. I'm going to select 3 different people over here. And I'm going to label it D. Saunders NUNM. And that also is going to be the title of it in my document library. So when I go, because remember, you guys can't see what's inside these documents. When I go to apply, I know which document order to get and attach to my application for NUNM. So hopefully that makes sense. If you're having questions, you can certainly email your residency director at your school. Or if you don't have a residency director at your school, contact your dean, find out who's on the interview committee, and they should be able to help you. And then if you meet this criteria and you did have your evaluator was also on the committee, you'll want to select a different person and then combine a document order without the committee member. Okay, thank you. That's all from me.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome, welcome. Okay, so I'm going to be covering some additional key topics here. So one of the big ones that I do want to highlight in this slide is registering your credit card. So something to keep in mind, it's something that we highly recommend that you do very early on, and it's something that you can easily do today. So we had talked about that in phase 1 already, but just keep in mind, get that credit card registered and on file. And the other important thing to note about this as well is that your credit card will only be on file and we won't charge the credit card until we process your application. So as you can see on the next bullet here, it is $49 $49 per site when you do apply. And the other important thing to note too is that if you are being interviewed in person, the cost of travel will actually be on the applicant. And then I'm also going to talk about a separate fee. So when it comes to the match process, it's a different portal, which this will actually be emailed towards the very end of the interview period. And this is a separate fee. So when you submit your ranking, your card will be charged $50. So again, so another important note on this that if you choose not to submit your application, your credit card will not be charged, or if you choose to not submit your match or your ranking, your card will not be charged. It's only when you apply or when you also match, your card will be charged at that time. So just keep in mind this is something that you do have to have on file in order for us to process your application. Next slide, please. And so the other question of how are decisions made? So your application will be reviewed by a team, a committee, the residency director. So it just depends on where you're applying. So if you are applying at a private location, it'll likely be within that. The staff physicians there, the site director there. If you are applying institutionally, what that will look like is the committee, the residency director will be involved as well. So again, it'll be a team of clinicians who will be reviewing your application. So another important note here is that when your application is being looked at, there are certain criteria that can include things like looking at your GPA, looking at your research experience, looking at your teaching, leadership, clinical skills, etc. And also those faculty recommendations will also be reviewed at that time. And so applicants will be contacted for invitation to interview once your application has been looked over and processed as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so interview tips. So the interview is very important in that it's your time to showcase your skills, knowledge, and to see if that site is a good fit for yourself. So keep in mind when you are interviewing in person, dress appropriately, be on time, come prepared. If you are interviewing virtually, ensure that you have really good internet connection and also have a professional background as well. Next slide, please. Okay, and another important question here. How do I make myself a competitive applicant? So this can actually involve doing a little bit more research on your end. So if there is a site that you're interested in, look at the job description, see if that's something that can apply to you. Start building your CV based off of the sites that you're interested in. And look to see what type of leadership skills, any activities, events, things that that site is looking for. And then also another important thing to note too is show your attendance in those different types of rotations. So for example, say that you are applying to a residency site that focuses on treating pediatrics, right? If you've been on several pediatric rotations, showcase that on your CV as well. Grades are also important, so don't forget about that. And if you have any research or teaching background, certainly include that as well. Any relevant experiences that could be applied for that site, include that as well. And also note that there are some private clinics that do require preceptorship before applying. So make sure that you're reading those job descriptions to see if that is a requirement for the private clinic that you are interested. And please be very organized. And the last thing on here, get things done well before they're supposed to happen. So keep those deadline dates that Dr. Connor had talked about early on and get things done a lot sooner. All right, I think that is the end of mine. I will hand it over to Dr. Carino.
Hello, everyone. So let's move on to the next phase. As mentioned, the match process opens on May 13th and it closes on May 20th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So don't wait until 7:58. You just never know what's going to happen. And I think it's important for you to know that you should only submit the names of the sites where you interviewed and that you will accept. Because what you don't want is you don't want to be in a position to have been selected by a site, have matched with them, and then you decide to not take it because you weren't really wanting to take that on. If you match and you decline your position, then unfortunately you won't be able to reapply for a residency for 2 years. It really puts the residency site at a bit of a disadvantage by doing that. And of course, you want to put your best foot forward and just make sure that you have made a really solid decision as to where you'd like to be. So yes, Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Make sure you do it well in advance. And it is $50 once again for that match. So then the question comes up, because I'm from Canada, what about cross-border residencies? Can we have an American citizen go down to the States or apply to, American citizen apply to a Canadian-based residency and vice versa? There are a lot of considerations to think about, and they are listed here. They include complication, time consuming. There's quite a bit of cost associated with it. There are time delays. There's work permit applications, and this has caused many residency hosts from accepting your application. I will say also, though, that even amongst these complications, it is exceptionally challenging, especially over the past couple of years. Um, we have immigration challenges. So unless you are legally authorized to work within that country, within that residency, then I don't mean to discourage you, but it's just going to be a really difficult thing for you to take into consideration. So, for now, we do encourage you to pay close attention to the residencies that are within reach for you, that you won't be seeing, much of these complications, and hopefully, you'll get the residency of your desires. Okay, next slide, please. So then the question is, well, what about a place that I've preceptored and it would be a really great place for me to be a resident? Hmm, I wonder if they would be interested in having a residency program because I'd really love to work there for a year or two and kind of get them excited about it. So if you have identified a site that isn't already hosting a resident and you want to maybe speak with them to see if that's something of interest, please do so. And then what you can do is you can share the link. You can just go onto the ANMC ANMC site. You'll see that link that talks about the benefits about becoming a residency site. And then there's some really helpful information there for these clinics and also an interest form, and they will connect that potential host to the various schools that are involved in the residency program to hopefully host a residency for the next cycle or immediately. So next slide, please. There are the other thing that I wanted to comment on is that there is no refunds. There are no exceptions. So these include various situations, so we're going to spell them out so that you're aware fully about what you will not be refunded for. If a site accepted you in the match, but because of visa or work delays, they've been forced to accept the next candidate, you will not be refunded. You will not be refunded if you originally applied and interviewed at a site, but you decided at the end that you weren't interested in including that site in the match. Consequently, if the site interviewed you but decided to match someone else, I think that's another reason. If the site interviewed you but decided not to match a resident this cycle, that's also not a reason for refunds. And then the site does not offer you an interview. So I just wanted to be very clear about the application refund policy. Next slide, please. So let's say you've been in a situation where you have put in your match, you're very excited, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out this first time around. It doesn't mean that all is done. It means that we would like to have some post-match applications. And so there are opportunities for those open positions because many sites might not have been matched as well. And those sites will become available after the match. And so students who are not matched can apply to these sites. So you just watch out for communications that come from the ANMC. Keep that email up to date, keep track of it, and you'll be able to know the timelines and be able to watch out for those post-match applications. Next slide, please. So then to recap, February to March, it's going to be a really fast 2 months, but it's an opportunity for you to have fun in the application process and to take into consideration all that you want to see in the residency sites that you'll be applying for. So first, do your due diligence, do your research, check out the open residencies that will start to be open on January 29th. And by the way, sometimes we have some later residencies that might decide that they want to be part of this match cycle. So they sometimes come up a little bit later. So just keep up to date, but you'll often see a notice that says new residency posted. So just keep up to date with that. Make sure that you follow up and request on faculty evaluations and school transcripts. Also, upload your personal statement, resume, essays, and your NPLEX 1 results. Also, what it's important for you to do is create an order for your confidential credential file. Please follow the deadlines associated with that. Dr. Saunders has gone through that quite specifically as to how to do that, and just review the video if you need to do it again, just to make sure you're doing everything correctly. Submit your application documents for each site by the deadline. And then you prepare for your interviews. And we had Dr. Suko talk about the interviews, and then you prepare for your match list. And like I said, you have approximately a week to make your choice. Don't leave it to the last minute. And much luck to you. So next slide. So I'll leave it now to Dr. Yanez.
Thank you all so much. Just getting my video here turned back on. So we have some new tools. We're trying to get with the times here over at AANMC. And so if you take a screenshot or you go ahead and load up these QR codes, it should upload the Google Calendar with the residency calendar and dates. So please do subscribe so that you can get those dates added to your calendar. Super important to have that. And, you might have done this yourself already. In that case, you can disregard it. But having the calendar reminders and backdooring into when you need to have certain things ready is a valuable component of this. Next slide. So, where you can learn more, FAQs, please do read them, go through the YouTubes. If you have missed one of these events, please go back and feel free to watch them. They are all available on YouTube as well as the AANMC site. Subscribe to our Instagram as well. That's a good way to just track some of the things that we post on there. Next slide. And we've got some upcoming events for you and folks who may be interested in this career as well. We'll be talking all things diabetes in a couple weeks with Dr. Beverly Yates. And then we will have a discussion about funding naturopathic doctoral degree for prospective students coming up on March 11th. Next. So with that, let's go into the questions. So there is a question about faculty recommendations from residents. Would somebody like to answer that live, please?
I can start, and if anybody wants to supplement, please do so. The weight of the faculty evaluations really is based primarily on how you were evaluated, not who evaluated you. And so my recommendation is make sure that you have a diverse set of of evaluations, maybe not 3 residents that are serving as your faculty evaluators, but someone that perhaps is more experienced and others, but no, they shouldn't carry any less weight than the what you might call the heavyweights that have been out there for a while.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to add, or can we jump to the next
Yeah,
one?
if I can add to that too, I think what the committees will really want to see is that um, it, you have an evaluator who is really able to kind of see some growth and progression in your clinical skills, especially. So I would choose, even if it's maybe not your favorite supervisor, but someone who maybe you solve very challenging cases with, that they were really able to see your progression and your growth as a clinician, because that's ultimately what we're looking for in the residency committees.
Thank you, Dr. Connor. So next question is, will we be able to see which site requires in-person interviews before application?
I'll take that. Some of the job descriptions explicitly state what the expectations are, or even go so far as to invite you to come out there to shadow for a day, and others don't. So if that's a consideration for you, um, I would email the site and ask them what they're doing with interviews. And at the same time, I know travel isn't the most affordable thing all the time. Finding budget travel is a good challenge, but really being able to meet the person that you'd be spending the next year with, to ensure that it feels good from an interpersonal standpoint, it is a gift. So emailing, asking if it's going to be, if you could come shadow for a day and then maybe do an online interview so you're not coming back a second time, or if you could shadow in and around an interview if they were going to do that, or if they just plan to do online stuff, can you come out and shadow at some point? So that's my thoughts. I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in.
Thank you. I think that probably sums it up. And then there's another question. If you're chatting with a former residency site, what would be the deadline to have them post a listing for this current cycle?
Also, the deadline to submit applications is March 11th, and the interview period begins March 30th. So is that the main question there?
So it's
question
typically,
oh.
yeah, go ahead, Dee. Sorry.
The question is the deadline for sites to be added to this year's match.
We can find that and keep going here. It's typically just to understand the process. It's typically somewhere in that interview process, because we want to make sure that all the students have the opportunity to interview at all of the sites that are open. So typically around that time when the interview period opens, we typically stop taking in new sites, just so that all the students have equitable opportunities to interview across the different sites for the period, if that makes sense. So I think it's fair, while we're looking for the actual date, it's fair to just say, make sure that they are on board around that period of the application period, or of the interviews starting, rather. So interviews start March 30th. So I would say that is going to be our close for adding new sites. Okay. Next question. Let's see here. Does a residency site have to be with an ND, or can there be MDs and DOs for supervision? Who would like to take that?
I'll give it a start, because we do have a couple of these. MDs and DOs can certainly be the site director, and we have that at a couple of places. What is required by the CNME is that there is also an ND mentor that is either available within that site or available to that student as a mentor. And that's really something that the site works with the sponsor school and ensures that that is something that's available. So either if you have an MD run site and the site is approved, then they have already had a discussion around the need for ND mentorship, and there's usually some people that either work in that specific clinic or the school supports and helps get them an ND mentor, just so they have someone else to speak to about cases from a naturopathic philosophy point of view. That's a CNME requirement.
All right, I am not seeing any additional questions. So I think that wraps up our day today. Thank you for joining. We will have a copy of this available, this recording available for folks shortly after, sometime next week. And very much appreciate you all taking a little time on a Sunday here to help support our future residents. Thank you all, and hope that you have a good restful weekend.